everybody, Will McBride back again for episode 2 of Maxing Your Music Creation Experience Without Touring. This video is targeting local and regional musicians that do original music, not just cover bands and not tribute bands. So if you're one of those people who desires to create original music, and maybe you're over 40 years old, past your rock star years, but you're proficient and practiced on your instruments, you have a group of people around you that could help you to create a group, if that's how you chose to go, but you have a way of doing that. But maybe you have a family, or maybe you have a career, or maybe you have both, and you just can't tour or don't want to tour or whatever. You don't want to play in bars till 2 a.m., but you want to play for big rooms with large and eager audiences, just like the bands that you admire. Well, that's what this video series is for. It's for people that fall in that category. Now, you remember in episode 1 that I reminded you to be ready. And if you don't know all the things about that, well, go back and look at that episode and it'll explain to you what I mean by that. This episode is about thinking big. And so tip 2 is usually a tip in every one of the episodes. Tip 2 will be, don't be afraid to think big. And what does that mean? 1 is to have a vision. 2 is to be the leader. And 3 is to have pro players. And I'll talk about each one of those. So have a vision. Having a vision to experience what the famous bands that you admire experience. I had that vision, and it manifested in opening shows for ZZ Top, and for Styx, and for Eddie Money, and for Leon Russell, and for Delbert McClinton, and for Little River Band, and for Mother's Finest, and a few more. So, I had a vision for that. I had a vision for playing in large venues with larger crowds. Here in the local Raleigh-Durham area, there's Durham Performing Arts Center that has 2,700 seat capacity. There's Coca Booth Amphitheater, which I've played multiple times. It's an outdoor amphitheater, so it can hold thousands of people. I've played in shows that had well over 1,500 people a couple of times. A theater up in the northeast part of the state in Roanoke Rapids called Weldon Mills Theater. I played there, and it had a capacity of 1,100, and the show we did there was almost full. And Carolina Theater in Greensboro is a very beautiful historic theater that holds about 900 people. I also had a vision for doing TV and radio appearances. We've done the local NPR station for radio, as well as another commercial FM station here. Done the local affiliate for NBC and for CBS, so those were fun. And those kind of performances are excellent production, but they also give you better royalties because they reach a larger audience, and I'll talk about royalties in another session later. And I just had a vision to do compelling, original, and unique, and interesting music. My philosophy has always been good enough is just not good enough. So much so that I wrote a song about it. But I'll say it again, like I said in episode 1, luck is where preparedness and opportunity intersect. Let me give you an example. In 2011, my band had been playing for, about 6-7 years now, doing the local circuit, and we had just gotten a new drummer in the band, and that drummer, he went to Berkeley, and he had a former roommate who became the drummer for Styx. I didn't know this at the time, but we were doing a small show. Eric, was his name. Eric got a text from his former roommates, and he said, "Hey, Todd just texted me, and they're coming to town later in the month, and he's asked, me and my wife to go hang out with him backstage and all that stuff. I don't see him very often, blah, blah, blah." And so I made an offhand comment of, "Hey, how about see if we can open for him?" He said, "Okay." So he suggested it to him. Long story short, Todd submitted the suggestion to them. About 2 weeks before the show was when this conversation happened. About a week later, I got a text from the promoter, an email from the promoter. That person said, "Send us some music. We want to hear what you do." So I sent him a link to our website and where some of the music is. I waited about 4 days for a response, and I figured, well, I'm not going to get it. So we're like 3 days before the show, and I get an email, and they say basically, we need to work out logistics about how you're going to send, what signal you're going to send to the main board, how you're going to handle monitors. You need to be self-contained, all that stuff. They said, if you can do that, you're in. So we got the gig. I couldn't believe it. And it was a wonderful experience, I can't stress that enough, to play your music in front of a large attentive crowd at a big venue, opening for a band you admire. It's top of the hill. The second part of that tip, in addition to having a vision, is to be the leader. And being the leader means you got to work hard. You have to kind of do everything. If you have the vision and you want to drive the band to that, you have to do everything. You have to do the booking, you have to do the finances, you have to do the promotion, you have to do all the personnel stuff, make all the decisions, even the mundane ones like what to wear and when to arrive and all that stuff. But as a leader, you need to be respectful. You have to respect your bandmates. You have to be kind and considerate and solicit input from them. But they have to understand that you make the final decision. But if you do that, I've found that 90% of them are generally on board if they want to do what you want to do. But what I have discovered in my working experience is that a democracy kind of doesn't work in this situation, because not everybody has the same vision. And so you really kind of need a leader here. A lot of times you don't have multiple songwriters. Yes, there are exceptions. Lennon and McCartney are a great exception. But I've never personally experienced that. So I mentioned also that you need pro players. Pro players execute the vision at the high level. They can handle the pressure. They can be on big stages. If you're on TV, they can handle it. But to have a pro player, you have to book lucrative as well as strategic gigs. You have to have, if you're going to do some that don't make a lot of money, you need to also have some that make decent money so that you average out to something that they will tolerate. They won't do it for nothing. I wouldn't. But the advantage of pro players is they know how to play under pressure. Let me give you an example of that one. In our second opening act show we did at the Carolina Theater for opening for Aaron Neville. And while we're waiting side stage, the MC is out there doing his spiel about the theater and how it serves the local community and all that stuff. And then he introduces us, and it takes me about 45 seconds to get the guitar on and get the amp out of standby and set up everything, get comfortable and all that stuff. Well, the applause only lasted 15 seconds. It was polite and it was sizable, but it only lasted 15 seconds, which left about 30 seconds of absolute painful silence. At that moment, I start getting nervous. I look around at my bandmates, and they're doing their thing, and they're oblivious, not oblivious, but they're pros, so they handle it. And they all nod at me, they're ready to go. I am calmed by this. I step up to the mic, introduce the first song, and off we go. And so, pro players were an advantage there. So, in summary, in order to think big, you have to have the vision, you have to be the leader, and you have to employ pro players. That really does allow you to achieve what you're thinking big about. So let me give you some background about me. Again, I'm from the Raleigh-Durham area, and that's where I'm located. I'm in a mid-sized music market, not a big music market, but not a small one. Spent many years doing cover material, sneaking in originals where I can. I was continuing to write all that time, and evolved eventually to doing local theaters and opening shows and earning royalties, which I'll talk about later. And I did all this after about 40 years old. So it can be done. Again, there's no formula to this, but you just have to be prepared and think big. If you like this video, please endeavor to give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to the channel where you'll find more interesting content, both live, official music videos, live videos, gear reviews, and the rest of of this video series. And if you're interested in knowing more about my band, we're called the Will McBride Group, www.willmcbridegroup.com, here on the lower part of the screen. And I look forward to bringing you episode 3. And in the meantime, be well.